So we'll start off the class in whatever position is the most comfortable position for you. You might choose something seated or something laying down. You can sit either on the ground or up on some other surface like a couch or a bed if that's more comfortable for you. Finding a position that lets you relax and release and feel maybe a bit more grounded. So somewhere that you can really connect with whatever's supporting you. Again, whether that's the ground or maybe a piece of furniture, noticing each and every place where your body touches down on that support. And maybe allow yourself to get a little bit heavier, feeling that support pushing back up against your body, acknowledging it and really allowing it to take your weight. And once you feel settled in whatever position you've chosen, take a moment to scan through the body, starting at the top of the head, working our way down, and looking for any areas of tightness or tension, and then consciously softening and releasing them. And starting with the muscles of the face, relaxing the forehead, maybe allowing the eyes to softly close or the gaze to rest downward, releasing the jaw, letting the tongue fall away from the roof of the mouth. And relaxing the neck and shoulders, letting the shoulders get a little bit heavier. If you are laying on your back, feeling those shoulder blades pressing into the mat. If you're seated, feeling the shoulders draw down the back. Finding a little bit more openness through the chest. Allowing your arms to hang heavy at your sides, making sure that they feel supported. So if you are seated, resting your hands on your legs or on the ground. And if you're laying down, letting your arms extend out wherever they're comfortable. As long as they feel that they are supported, as long as you can really tune into the ground beneath you. And then we'll settle down through the hips, finding equal grounding through both sides of the body. Finding some heaviness through upper legs and lower legs. Softening the inner arches of the feet and relaxing the toes. And from here, without trying to change anything, let's start to bring a little bit of awareness to our breathing. Noticing how your body feels as you inhale and as you exhale. Noticing where and how the body moves as you breathe in and breathe out. And if you do notice any areas that are still feeling a bit tight or a bit tense, as you inhale, imagine directing the energy, the breath to that area. As you exhale, softly release, maybe bring a little bit of that tension back up and out of the body. If when you started out, your breathing was a bit shallow or short, maybe draw the next inhale a little bit more deeply into the body. Filling up the lungs, feeling the rib cage expand, and then feeling the belly rise as the diaphragm pushes down. And then on the exhale, the reverse, letting the belly soften, diaphragm moves back up, lungs empty out, and the body soften. Creating a bit more space with each breath in and a bit more softness with each breath out. And let's keep the breath flowing smooth and steady and slow. We'll invite a little bit of movement back into the body though, gently wiggling fingers, wiggling toes, noticing how that movement feels after you've been still. And if it's available in the shape that you're in, circling through wrists and circling through ankles, making those movements a little bit bigger. And again, observing what you notice, observing what you feel. Maybe turning the head gently from side to side, stretching one side of the neck and then the other. And then we'll bring everything back to stillness. If you are laying on your back, taking a moment to draw your knees in towards your chest and roll over onto the side of your body. And pause there, taking a slow inhale, slow exhale. And when you're ready, we'll meet up in a seated position. And if you have been seated so far and you want to change the position, you're welcome to. For example, if you have your legs crossed, you might want to uncross and recross them in the other direction. And take a moment to ground through both sides of the body. So both sitting bones are pressing down into the ground or into some other support. And then we'll lengthen up through the crown of the head, sitting up a little bit taller, growing the spine. From here, let's drop the chin down towards the chest and we'll slowly roll the chin over towards one shoulder. Looking as far back as you comfortably can, and then slowly roll the chin all the way back down through center and over to the other side. Again, turning your gaze back behind you. Moving nice and slow, we'll go back through center over to the other side. And you might start to move with your breath, using your exhale to draw your chin down to your chest. And inhale to move to one side or the other. Really taking your time here. If there's an area where you feel you want to pause and take a couple of breaths in a still position, you can do that too. And then rejoin the movement when you feel ready. And then we'll meet up back at the center. Head in a neutral position. From here, let's take the right arm across the front of the body and we'll loop the inside of the left elbow or inside of the left hand around that right elbow. Soften the right shoulder down and then really reach the right fingertips towards the left side as you draw that right arm in. It's comfortable keeping the arm straight. If it's not, you can bend a little bit through the elbow. And as we inhale here, let's focus on the space between the shoulder blades and the edge of the right shoulder blade, close to the center of the back. Again, if you notice that there's tension there, feel free to direct your breath as you inhale, visualizing that breath traveling right to those tight areas. And as you exhale, visualizing a little bit of the strain leaving the body. And let's release that side. We'll reach that right arm straight up. We'll bend the elbows so the right fingertips come down to the base of the neck. We'll take the left hand onto the right elbow and guide it inwards. Notice here the tendency to drop the head down. See if you can bring it back up in line with the spine. And if you notice that you're really pressing forward with the front of your body, see if you can draw it back so the spine is in a fairly neutral position. A little bit of a curve at the low back, a little bit of a curve at the upper back, and a little curve at the cervical spine of the neck. You can leave your left hand on your right elbow for support, or if you'd like, you can release that left hand, sweep it out to the side, down towards the ground, and then bend the elbow, reaching those fingertips up towards the right fingertips. Maybe your fingers come to touch, or maybe they rest somewhere along the length of the spine, reaching towards one another. Checking in again for that position of the spine, and then focusing on continuing to draw the right elbow up and in. Taking a few slow, deep breaths here, imagining that air traveling all the way down the length of the spine, filling up the whole body. And then as you exhale, slowly releasing, finding some softness, letting go of a little bit of tension. Letting that side go. We'll go right away into the other side, taking the left arm across the front of the body and then wrapping either the inside of the right hand or inside of the right elbow around that left elbow. If you notice your left shoulder lifting up, draw it back down so the two shoulders are level. And then we'll reach the left fingertips over towards the right side of the room. Again here, if you need to bend your elbow, you can. If your arm is completely straight and it's comfortable for you, you can start to use your right arm to draw that left arm in a little bit closer. Keep dropping that left shoulder down. Keep reaching the left fingertips across. And breathe into that space between the shoulder blades. And let's release that side down, and then we'll reach the left arm straight up towards the ceiling, bending the left elbow, bringing the left fingertips down towards the base of the neck. And take the right hand onto the left elbow and guide it inwards, reaching those left fingertips straight down. From here again, noticing tendency to look down towards the floor. See if you can look straight ahead. And then if you notice the front of the body pressing forward, the rib cage popping, see if you can draw it back. Finding a long, tall, neutral spine. As you inhale, lengthening up through the crown of the head, reaching up with that left elbow. As you exhale, sinking down into the hips and reaching the left hand lower. You can leave the right hand at the left elbow for support, or you can reach that right arm out to the side, down towards the floor, and then bending the elbow, reaching up towards the left fingertips. Maybe your hands come to meet, or maybe they rest somewhere along your back, reaching towards one another. Wherever you're at, keep working that left elbow up and in towards the midline of the body. Keep focusing on the breath, feeling it move in and out. And keep it slow and steady. And let's release those hands. Take a moment to roll out through the shoulders, lifting shoulders up towards the ears and then squeezing the shoulder blades together, drawing them down the back. Using the inhale to lift up and exhale to squeeze and lower. Really taking your time and focusing on the action of the muscles around and between the shoulder blades. And then we'll take it the other direction, lifting the shoulders up and then spreading the shoulder blades nice and wide as you roll the shoulders forward and down. And let's bring it back to stillness. From here, let's take our hands back behind our body and interlace our fingers so our palms draw towards one another and the knuckles draw down and back. If holding on to opposite hands is uncomfortable, you could also choose opposite wrists or elbows with a bend in the elbow. What we're looking for here is a stretch along the front of the shoulder and maybe across the chest. We'll start by drawing the knuckles or elbows, wrists down and back, lifting up through the center of the chest, getting a little bit taller here. If this is comfortable for you and you'd like to take it one step further, I'd invite you to come into a kneeling position. If you're happy staying where you are and this feels like a good stretch for you, please feel free to stay in whatever position you're in. You are moving to the next variation, coming into a kneeling position, same arms, reaching back behind you, palms drawing together, knuckles drawing down and back. We'll inhale, lengthening up, and as we exhale, let's fold forward and lift those knuckles up towards the ceiling. As we inhale, let's draw the knuckles back and lift up. And as we exhale, hinge forward, draw the knuckles up behind us. Now knees can be together. Or if you need a little bit more space, you want a little bit more of a stretch for the hips, you can take the knees wide apart. Exhaling, bending forward, lifting the knuckles. And then inhaling, reaching those hands back, coming upright. We'll do a couple more. And if you are in the cross-legged position and you're extending your knuckles down and back, keep checking in, keep noticing how the front of your body feels in this position. If you need a release for your wrists, feel free to release at any time. If you are folding, doing one more, coming forward on the exhale, lifting those knuckles up, and then inhaling all the way back up. Wherever you are, releasing your arms, and again, rolling through the shoulders. Taking the shoulders back and then taking them forward. Maybe taking a moment to roll through the wrists. And then we'll make our way up into a tabletop position. Letting the elbows stack underneath of the shoulders and then the hands come down wherever they comfortably land. We'll spread the fingers nice and wide, pressing down through the fingertips. And then we'll take the knees about hip distance apart beneath the hips. You can have your toes flat on the floor or you can tuck them under, whatever you'd rather. And just as we did in our seated postures, let's try to find a neutral spine. So we'll press the floor away. If you notice that the front of your body is sagging down, see if you can draw it back up. There should be a little bit of a curve in the low back, but nothing too exaggerated. And then we'll gaze straight down at the floor so our neck is in line with the rest of the spine. From here, pressing the floor away, let's take a deep breath in at center. And as we exhale, let's draw the right shoulder back towards the right hip, lengthening the left side of the body, looking back towards the right toes. We'll inhale, coming back to center, press the floor away, and then exhale, draw the left shoulder back towards left hip, looking back towards left toes. We'll go back and forth between those two sides, using your inhale to take you to center, and exhale to go one side or the other. Remembering as you move, keep pressing the floor away, try to maintain that neutral spine. Flow with the breath. And also notice the connection between the body and the ground. So finding transfer of weight maybe as you look over towards the right, your left hand gets a little bit lighter, right hand gets a little bit heavier. Maybe the same happens with your knees or your feet. And after you draw your left shoulder back to left hip the next time, we'll come back to center, looking straight down. Pausing for a moment, noticing any sensation here. If you feel like you need a break for your wrist, feeling free to take the time to roll them out. You always have the option, if you do have any wrist pain, to roll the front of your mat or get a towel or a blanket or something and place it under the lower part of your palm so that there's less of an angle on your wrist. And same thing for your knees. If you have any discomfort in your knees while you're kneeling, you can fold your mat or you can place a blanket under your knees for some extra cushioning there. The next movements we'll do are cat and cow pose. So as we inhale, we'll lower the front of the body, draw the shoulders back, and look forward for cow pose. And then we'll round the spine, spread the shoulders, and look back to the knees for cat. We'll move back and forth between those two, and I'd invite you to take some time here to play with your breathing a little bit. Typically in these poses, we would inhale for cow pose, dropping the belly, drawing the shoulders back, and looking forward. And then we'd exhale for cat as we press the floor away, draw the low belly in, drop the head down. So do a few rounds like that, using your inhale to lengthen the front of the body and exhale to lengthen the back. Really check in, notice how that feels for you. Notice any areas of resistance. Notice if you're able to maintain a flow with the breath. Sometimes holding onto that rhythm is a little bit challenging. And then let's bring it back to center. From here, let's inhale into cow. So we'll lower the belly down, draw shoulders back, and look forward. And then we'll exhale to a neutral spine. As we inhale, let's press the floor away, drop the head, spread the shoulders wide into cat. Exhaling, we'll move to center to a neutral spine. Inhaling to cow, looking forward, dropping the belly. Exhaling to a neutral spine, looking straight down, pressing the floor away. And then inhaling for cat, moving even further away from the floor, arching the back and looking down. Continuing to flow in this way for a couple of rounds. And again, observing what it feels like for you. Is it the same? Is it different? Maybe it's a little bit slower. Maybe you're able to move a little bit deeper. Or maybe you find that there's more restriction as you try to inhale into cat, for example. Noticing these differences without judgment, knowing that everyone is a little bit different. And then we'll bring it all the way back to center. And finally, let's inhale for cat, pressing the floor away, dropping the head down, spreading the shoulders. And exhale, moving into cow, drawing shoulders back, looking forward. Inhaling for cat. And exhaling for cow. And same as we did in the first two variations, really checking in, noticing how this feels for you. Noticing any resistance, maybe noticing any extra openness. Some people automatically just switch back to whatever breath they're used to. So noticing if that happens for you. It definitely happens for me if I'm not paying close attention. And then we'll bring it back to a neutral spine once again. From here, let's take the knees a little bit wider on the mat. We'll bring the big toes together and we'll sit the hips down onto the heels, coming into child's pose. So a few options in child's pose. You can rest on your elbows so that your upper body is more elevated. This is a good option if you have any low back pain, if you have any heartburn, keeping your head elevated above your heart and not putting too much strain on the low back. It's also a little bit easier on the hips for a lot of people. If this feels completely comfortable for you and you want to go into a more passive version of the pose, a more relaxed reclined position, you can walk your arms out in front of you, either keeping the elbows bent, letting your chest and forehead come down towards the mat, or extending your arms more actively, really reaching the fingertips forward. Maybe try out each of the different options and really check in, notice where and how you feel them. And then settle into whichever variation works best for you today, knowing that each day your body might feel different from the other, depending on what you've been doing in your daily life, depending on stress in your life. So really taking the time to get to know what you need today before choosing, and then allowing yourself to settle in. We'll pause for a few slow, deep breaths. Really tuning into the back body here as you inhale, feeling the back of the rib cage expanding. And then as you exhale, feel the back of the rib cage softening. With each inhale, we're getting a little bit more spacious. And with each exhale, maybe settle the hips down. Settle down into whatever parts of the body are touching the mat. When you're ready, start to walk yourself back up into your tabletop. Bring your knees underneath of your hips, arms under your shoulders. And let's take ourselves into a low lunge. So we'll walk our right hand towards the center of the mat. And we'll step the right foot forward just outside of that right hand. Toes can point straight towards the front of the mat or slightly out to the side. And then we'll get a little bit lighter on our fingertips and we'll come all the way up. So we'll have our right knee stacked over right ankle. And what we'll look for here is a little bit of a stretch along the front of the left hip. So if you come up and you feel it already, this is where you might want to stay. If you come up and you're not feeling it yet, let's bring our hands onto our hips and we'll tilt the pelvis a little bit, pressing the tailbone down and forward. And then pressing into that left hip, finding a little bit of activity through the left glutes and leaning slightly forward. If you've done that and you still don't feel anything across the front of your left hip, you might choose to walk your right foot out in front of you. As you do so, walk it out a little bit, stack your knee over your ankle, press your hip forward. Continue with that same walk the foot forward, stack the knee, press the hip, just until you feel that little bit of a stretch. We don't want anything too intense here. You know, a lot of us are sitting or maybe walking more often than we normally would with some spare time. So the muscles, the hip flexors get a little bit tighter with either of those activities. So really take a few moments here to let that muscle start to release. As you breathe in, lengthening up, lifting up through the crown of the head, lifting up through the chest, opening up. And as you breathe out, pressing forward and down. If you wanted to add a little bit more of a chest opener here, there are a couple of options. You could take your hands back behind you and interlace them just as we did at the start of the class, drawing knuckles down and back. Same option to hold on to opposite elbows. You could also choose to take your arms into a goddess arm shape. So bending the elbows to 90 degrees, pointing the fingertips straight up, elbows in line with the shoulders, and then draw those elbows back, maybe gazing up towards the ceiling. And then the option is there to leave your hands on your hips and draw your elbows back towards one another. So choosing whatever option works for you. We'll take just a few more deep breaths here. And then we'll bring the hands back down onto the mat. Let's take that right foot back beside the left. From here, let's take the right foot back behind us. We'll tuck the toes under and press the heel back. You can stay here, lengthening the back of the right leg. If you'd like to lift up into a downward facing dog, you can do that as well, drawing that left foot back in line with the right, and then lifting hips up and back to press the floor away. We'll be here just for a moment, stretching out the back of either the right leg or both legs, depending on what you've chosen. Really focusing on drawing the heel down and back. And then we'll come back to our tabletop. From here, let's take the left hand towards the middle of the mat, and we'll step the left foot just outside of the left hand. Again, toes can either point straight forwards or slightly out to the side. Get a little bit lighter on our hands until we're able to come all the way upright, bringing hands onto hips. And then we'll stack the left knee over the left ankle. This time we're looking for a little bit of a stretch on the front of the right hip, so we'll make those little adjustments. Again, pressing that right hip a little bit further forward and maybe tucking the tailbone down and forward a little bit to take some of the curve out of the low back. If you've done that and you start to feel the stretch along the front of your right hip, you can stay there. If you've done that and you don't feel it yet, you can start to inch the left foot forward, taking a small step, lining up the knee over the ankle, and then pressing the right hip forward, and continuing to do that until you find that sweet spot, that edge where there's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but nothing too intense. Once you find that place, you can either just focus on the right leg, or you can add a little bit of opening through the chest and upper body. Again, a few options. Leaving hands on hips, drawing elbows back towards one another. Taking the hands back behind your body, interlacing fingers and drawing knuckles down and back. Or same token, holding onto opposite elbows or wrists, drawing those down and back. And then finally, goddess arms. Bringing the elbows to 90 degrees. Stacking the elbows in line with the shoulders, fingers point straight up, and then draw those elbows back. If you are in your goddess arms, you might choose to look up towards the ceiling. And then notice if you've been adjusting your arms, if you've lost the focus on your legs, if they've shifted. If they have, bring them back into place. Find that stretch across the front of the right hip. And we'll breathe here. And let's take the hands back down onto the ground, and we'll step the left foot back to meet the right. Again, two options here. To start off with, we'll take the left foot back behind us, tuck the toes under, and press the left heel back, looking for a little bit of a stretch through the calf, maybe through the hamstring. If you're comfortable here and you'd like to stay, you can. If you'd like to move back into downward facing dog, you'll step your right foot back to meet your left, and then shift the hips up and back, pressing the floor away and drawing the tailbone up towards the ceiling as much as you're drawing it back. Taking a moment here, really drawing the heels down and back. Focusing either just on the left leg or on both legs. Breathing in and breathing out. And then we'll release all the way back down into our tabletop. From here, let's come to an upright kneeling position. Actually, let's come up to a standing position. We've been on our knees for a while. Come all the way up, standing up. From here, let's take our hands to our low back. So the palms press into the sacrum and the fingertips point down. We'll draw the elbows back towards one another. Again, focusing on finding a little bit more openness through the front of the body. I know a lot of us have been spending more time on our phones, on our digital devices, looking down. So this is kind of to counter that. Keep drawing your shoulders back and down. And you can stay here. Again, if you're already feeling a stretch where you are, you're welcome to stay. If you feel confident in your balance and you feel like you could use a little bit more stretch, We'll start to press the hips forward, activating the muscles of the glutes. So you should feel those muscles get a little bit more firm. Keep drawing the elbows together and lift up through the chest. Lengthen up and maybe look up. As you inhale, focusing on getting a little bit taller. As you exhale, pressing those hips forward. Gradually making your way into a deeper and deeper back bend. This is a standing version of Ustrasana or camel pose. And then when you're ready, releasing, coming all the way back up. And let's release our hands at the sides and we'll find Tadasana, mountain pose. Feet should be about hip distance apart, or a little closer or a little further, finding something that feels really stable for you, something that makes you feel strong and steady. Loop the shoulders up, down, and down the back. Extending the fingers out nice and wide, reaching those fingertips down. You can either have your palms facing your body or out towards the front. As you inhale here, lift up a little bit taller, lengthen the spine. As you exhale, root down into the feet. From here, let's reach both hands up ahead, overhead. And we'll reach the right wrist. I'm a little too tall here. We'll reach the right hand towards the left wrist. Extend those left fingertips up. And then reach those left fingertips towards the right side of the room, lengthening all along the right side of the body. As you inhale, lift up, maybe come out of the fold a little bit. And then as you exhale, fold a little deeper. Remembering that you want to find that edge. You don't want to push yourself past where you're comfortable. A little bit of discomfort, a little bit of strain is okay, but no pain. And we'll release, coming back to center. Let's let the arms come down for a moment. And then we'll switch sides, taking both hands up, reaching the left hand for the right wrist, extending those right fingertips straight up, and then lengthening over towards the left side. As we inhale, we'll reach straight up, again, coming out of the fold a little bit. And as we exhale, we'll lengthen all along the right side of the body. And let's release. We'll come all the way back to center. Release the arms back down. From here, let's take a moment to focus on the feet. Let's lift up the toes and notice how the ball of the foot and the heel press down a little bit more deeply. See if you can hold on to that connection with the ground as you lower your toes slowly all the way back down. And then we'll start to shift our weight over into our right foot. Let's take a little bit of a bend through the right knee. Get heavier and heavier through the right foot, and then get a little bit lighter through the left foot. Take our hands onto our hips. And then nice and slow, draw that left foot back until just the toes are touching down on the ground. See if you can find something to look at that's not moving within the room, and let your gaze soften. So you're looking, but you're not looking too hard. Find a focus on your breath, and then maybe see if you can bend that left knee, lifting those left toes up off the floor. To start off with, keep your knees in line with one another, so they're in the same plane and the same plane. And then if you'd like, you can reach your left hand back for your left ankle. So you can hold on to the outside of your left ankle or the inside, it's up to you. We'll draw those knees back in line with one another, so they should line up front to back and side to side. And trying to keep the same distance between the legs, we'll start to press that left knee back a little bit. Doesn't have to be very far. Again, we're looking for just a little bit of a stretch along the front of the left hip, just as we did in our lunge. That was the preparation pose for this one. You can stay where you are now, or if you'd like to move deeper, you can start to press that left knee back even further, drawing your hand back, pressing the hand into the foot and the foot into the hand, and then maybe extend your right arm out in front of you, coming into dancer pose. And you can take whatever depth you'd like in this pose, lifting that left knee as much as you lower your body. Breathing slowly in and slowly out. And then we'll release, coming back to standing and taking a moment to roll through wrists and roll through ankles. And let's bring it back to stillness again. We'll find equal weight beneath both feet. Taking that time to lift the toes up, press the feet down into the ground, and then lower the toes back down. Start off again with hands at sides or hands on the hips. And we'll shift our weight over into our left leg, bringing a little bit of a bend into the left knee for stability. And then finding your focal point, finding your breath. Start to slide that right foot back behind us until just the right toes are touching down. Stopping there and checking in, noticing how does your balance feel today? How does it feel on this side? If you feel this is where you want to stay, this is the pose. You can stay here. If you feel like you want to move further, you can start to bend the right knee, drawing that right heel back behind you. And we'll start off like this, looking to make sure that your knees are in line side to side and front to back. Finding a little bit of activation through the muscles of the right leg. You might feel your hamstrings starting to talk to you. And you can stay here, or you can reach your right hand back to your right ankle. Again, taking hold of the outside or inside. You notice that a lot of times when you reach back for your ankle, your right knee is going to draw out to the side. Bring it back in. Again, finding that alignment side to side and front to back. Knees are in line. Press the right hip forward, and then maybe you stay here. If you feel like you don't want to stay here, like you want to move a little bit further, you can start to slide that right knee straight back behind you. Again, not out to the side, straight back. And then as much as you draw that right knee back, lean the body forward. You can choose if you want to extend your left arm out to the front. And then we'll find a few breaths in whatever shape you've chosen. Knowing that each different step of this pose is still the pose. Focusing on breath and balance in any shape is beneficial. And let's release everything back down. Take a moment to roll through wrists and roll through ankles. And then we'll make our way down to a seated position on the mat. You can either come straight down to a seat, or you can come through Malasana, a low squat pose. Taking the feet nice and wide apart, a little bit wider than hip distance. Bring your hands together at heart center, stand up nice and tall as we inhale. And as we exhale, we'll lower the hips down, 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 bending through the knees, allowing those hips to come close down to the floor. If you need to adjust your feet once you get down there, you can. Pausing for just a moment, lengthening the spine, drawing tailbone down and back. And then we'll place the hands back behind us and sit down onto the floor. From here, let's take the feet in front of us, bringing the bottoms of the feet together, letting the knees fall open to the sides. Coming into bound angle, Baddha Konasana. Here we'll start with our fingers back behind us. And you can either choose to lean back, taking a more passive, relaxed version of the pose, allowing your knees to hang heavy. Or you can take a bit more active version, pressing into the fingertips, sitting up nice and tall, and then pressing the bottoms of your feet together, making the legs a little bit more active for a moment. You might notice that your knees lift up initially, that's okay. Taking a nice deep inhale, nice deep exhale. And then we'll release the pressure between the feet. Maybe your knees drop a little bit lower, maybe they don't. You can choose to leave your hands back behind you, or you can bring them around onto your feet or ankles, or maybe even out onto the floor in front of you. So here, if you have any low back pain, it's a good idea to keep a long neutral spine, sitting up tall, drawing shoulders down and back. and gazing straight ahead. So you're probably looking at the floor somewhere 6 to 8 feet out in front of you, or a wall in front of you. If you don't have any low back pain and it's completely comfortable for you, you might choose to round your back, bringing your nose down towards your feet and walking your hands out in front of you. It's not a good option for me today, so I'm going to stay more upright. Wherever you are, wherever you've landed, focus on the connection between your feet and the ground, your hips and the ground. Focus on lengthening your spine, filling the body up with fresh energy and oxygen each time you inhale, and finding some softness each time you exhale. Allowing these cues, allowing these physical signals to keep our attention in the present moment. Let's release. We'll come back upright. And briefly, we'll take the right foot out in front of us. Bring that left foot in nice and close. And we'll come to a forward fold over the right leg, whatever variation you'd like. Walking your hands out in front of you or keep them back behind you. Again, it's a brief pose. Just a couple of inhales and exhales. And then we'll switch sides, coming back upright. We'll take the left foot out in front of us, right foot in nice and close. Again, it's up to you taking a more active or a more passive variation. Just a few breaths here, either staying upright or leaning over that left leg. You might place your hands down on the floor in front of you or somewhere on your leg or your foot. You might have a straight neutral spine, or you might have more of a curve as your nose draws down towards your knee. Whatever version you prefer. For just a couple of slow, deep breaths. And then we'll come all the way back upright. We'll find a comfortable seated position, either kneeling, cross-legged, legs extended out in front of you, whatever you'd like. Again, if you'd prefer, you can sit on a couch or a chair or some other piece of furniture. I have a little cushion that I usually sit on. We'll come to an opening twist, taking the left hand on left knee and right hand down behind or beside us. Press into the hands and sit up tall, and then start to draw the right shoulder back. Maybe looking over that right shoulder to the wall behind you. Breathing in to lift up a little bit taller, and breathing out to soften, open towards the right. And let's release, unwinding, coming back to the middle. And we'll switch sides, taking the right hand onto the right knee, and then the left hand back behind or beside us. We'll press into those hands to sit up tall, and then start to open towards the left side. Again, drawing the left shoulder back. Be looking over the left shoulder back behind you. Breathing in to lengthen and breathing out to soften and open. Releasing, coming back to center. From here, we'll choose a resting pose to finish off our practice. So you might choose to stay in a seated position if that feels really comfortable for you. You might choose to lay on your back in Shavasana with feet extended to top corners of the mat, toes opening to the sides, and then arms extended out alongside the body. You might choose a side laying position if you have any low back pain or you might be pregnant. It's a nice position to lay on the left side of the body with the knees drawing up towards the chest and then the left arm extended out as a pillow for the head. You could also choose legs up the wall, Viparita Karani, if you prefer that, if you have a wall nearby. Or any other shape that you like that I haven't mentioned that feels really relaxing for you. So taking a moment to choose and then to move into that shape. Again, if you have been sitting and you're staying sitting, you might adjust before settling in. And once you moved into that position that you prefer, take a moment to notice all of the support beneath your body. Notice every place where the body touches down on the mat or on some other kind of support. Take a moment to acknowledge that point of contact. Notice that it's there. Notice the ground or the support pressing up against the body. And then allow the body to soften onto that support. Know that it is holding you. You do not need to hold yourself. You can allow yourself to soften onto that support. And then we'll scan through the body, taking a moment to notice any areas where you still feel like you're holding on, where you still feel like there's a little bit of tightness. And we'll take a few slow, deep breaths with those areas in mind. Again, you might visualize that as you inhale, the fresh energy and oxygen that comes in with your breath travels to those areas of tightness. And then as you exhale, a little bit of that tightness leaves the body with the breath. I sometimes like to imagine this as a white light coming in with the inhale. It's almost like the white light washes over that area of tightness. And then as I exhale, maybe a little bit less white light leaves the body. Maybe it's a different color. If you have an area of tightness or tension and it's, kind of intense, maybe it's like a red color. As you inhale, that breath comes in with the white light. As you exhale, maybe it's a little bit pink when it goes out. Taking a little bit of that tension with it. Allowing yourself a few moments here just to be, just to breathe. Allowing your body to integrate the practice that we've done. If you are feeling more relaxed and more stable here, maybe taking a moment to really notice that feeling in the body. Notice what it feels like. Slow, steady breath, relaxed muscles, allowing something else to support you. And try to internalize that feeling so that if later on or throughout the weekend or the week you come to a time when you need to step back, you can acknowledge that this feeling is possible. You can bring yourself back to this state. If you are laying on your back, maybe drawing your knees into your chest and rolling over to one side. If your legs are up the wall, bringing them down. Same thing, rolling onto your side. And then nice and slow, we'll meet up again in our seated position, whatever seated position you prefer. Really taking your time, allowing your eyes to slowly blink open. Sitting up tall and strong, grounded equally through both sides of the body. And we'll bring the hands together in front of the heart. I'd like to thank you for joining me and allowing me to guide you through this practice. From my light to yours, namaste.